Welcome back to the Deep Dive series, where each and every episode we take a look at a different NFL team and come up with a realistic outcome and prediction for them in the 2022 NFL season. And remember, we wrap this whole series up with the 2023 NFL mock draft. Now, I gotta address the lack of, facial hair, a beard. I watched Top Gun and I done messed up. Don't worry, the beard's coming back. Just might take a little bit of time. So just get used to this beautiful mustache. But we're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders today as we continue to cover these playoff teams, as they're the last team I have just slightly out of the playoffs, and there are some reasons for that, but let's go ahead, do the nitty gritty, and get into it here as we take a look at the roster, starting with the offense. We got Josh McDaniels here as the head coach, his second stint as a head coach, because things in Denver didn't go so swimmingly, but I have a lot of hopes for him here in Las Vegas. He brings over Mick Lombardi. If you're not familiar, Lombardi worked under McDaniels as the quarterbacks and wide receivers coach the last 3 seasons, and for all intents and purposes, they're probably going to be like-minded in their approach, and we're going to see a lot of what the Patriots have done in recent memory. At least this is what I'm assuming. I think we're going to see a more gap-heavy blocking scheme, which I think is good news for Alex Leatherwood, a guy that probably prefers to win with power and to get upfield quickly. It's very similar to what they asked him to do in Alabama. They're going to be using mainly power and counter running concepts, and this is a team that's going to want to attack the A and the B gaps. The Raiders, they did add some names in the backfield that McDaniels is probably familiar with, as they bring over Brandon Bolden, who's been a very good special teams player, but also a good kind of scat back option. They bring over Jacob Johnson, who was the fullback last year for the New England Patriots. They also decided to draft Zamir White there in the 4th round, who is very familiar with power running concepts, as that's what he was asked to do a lot there at Georgia. When it comes to what they're going to do in the passing game, I think the playbook that McDaniels is going to offer the squad is vast, but it's adaptable. A lot of what this team will be doing won't be decided at the in the huddle, but at the line of scrimmage, based on what Derek Carr is seeing pre-snap. There are also going to be many option routes, mainly directed towards the tight ends and the slot receivers, which is great because they have a beautiful combination of Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, who just enjoyed his first 1,000-yard season last year. They're even with an offensive line that has questions, that's probably going to be the unit where it's like, I don't know how I feel about this. This is an offense designed to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands at least fairly quickly, allow playmakers to create after the catch, and it's designed to take some pressure off that offensive line. But let's go ahead and take a look at what they do have at their let's look at the offense. I don't know what was the term I was looking for there. And I think first question is, who is going to be this team's number 2? Because we all know Davante Adams is going to be the team's number 1. First off, let's talk about Derek Carr, Davante Adams being reunited, and it feels so good. Yeah, no, that's great. Davante Adams is probably the best receiver in the league. That could be debatable, but dude's top 3. Dude's amazing. He was stellar with Aaron Rodgers. I think Derek Carr is exactly what he needed. The big question, who is wide receiver number 2? As right now, the 2 likely candidates for that is Keelan Cole, who I think is a very good receiver who performs exceptionally well in the slot and can play outside if you need him to. And then you got Demarcus Robinson, who's in basically a part of that bunch in Kansas City, with Mecole Hardman, that were they were all vying for volume after Kelsey and Hill. So they got those 2 guys. Demarcus Robinson's got great size. So it's I think we're going to see a good chunk of both of them. Keelan Cole, though, feels like the more stable option to see more snaps. Hunter Renfrow, he's your slot. We don't need to talk much more than that. But looking at the rest of the receivers at their I go back to the same saying that I couldn't that I had no idea what it was to begin with. So we're gonna see the rest of the wide receivers. They got Mac Hollins, who I think is a solid just depth guy in the league at this point of his career, but there ain't much else we're talking about here when it comes to wide receiver. They bring in Tyron Johnson, whatever. Dylan Stoner, a guy out of Oklahoma State last year. Another guy that I thought probably ends up being more of a slot player, but I don't know. I mean, you got Robinson, you got Renfrow, Cole, and Adams. Those are kind of like your four guys, so I ain't too worried about that. We will see maybe a little bit more of two tight end sets than we did last year with the Raiders as Darren Waller. We're going to see some Foster Moreau, who's a very good tight end too. Jacob Hollister, who is great depth. He's a cat that's right now kind of been a journeyman, but the dude's exceptionally solid. I'm very excited actually about those three tight ends. I think that's probably one of the deeper tight end groups in the league. I couldn't tell you much about Nick Bowers. Cole Frotherham was out of Utah a few years ago, it feels like. But was it? No, it was just this past season. But ain't much to talk about there. I will be surprised if he makes the team. If anything, I think they're going to opt to keep a fullback instead of a fourth tight end. So I think we're going to have Hollister, Moreau, and Waller with Johnson as well. Derek Carr, man, I think he has no excuses. I think Derek Carr, he's constantly, you talk about this guy's a top 10, top 12 quarterback, and I think that's really all they're going to need. They don't need him to be elite. They just need him to be able to move this offense, and I think they're going to do just that. We could talk about what they have at running back. As I think Kenyon Drake is actually going to play a very vital role as a pass catcher, a guy that could come in and help alleviate Josh Jacobs a bit of the workload. Josh Jacobs is another guy I hope they get more creative with. That was my biggest gripe with John Gruden, that he just never got creative with Josh Jacobs, a guy who lined up sometimes in the slot and outside there at Alabama. So maybe they get more creative with them. Brandon Bolden, just depth. Zamir White, we might see some Zamir White, but those are probably the four guys we're going to see stick. They do have Amir Abdullah, but he's more of a maybe a depth guy. Guy I don't see really making the roster. Brennan Brown out of UCLA was more of a power back, so I don't really see him making the roster either. Looking at the offensive line, because this is like kind of like the Achilles heel of the offense, is they got Colton Miller, and it feels like that's about it. I think the addition of Dylan Parham out of Memphis was huge. A guy that has versatility to play either guard spot, but can also probably play center. He played a little bit of center at Senior Bowl, but with Andre James, who's I'd say maybe like he's a middle of the pack center in the NFL currently, so he's an average starter. That's fine. Maybe we see Dylan Parham take one of the guard positions. John Simpson wasn't really anything special last year, if I remember correctly. Denzel Good is kind of fine, but he's really a replacement level starter at this point. Let's take a look. It was Simpson. He took the majority of the left guard snaps last year, and he wasn't anything special. Like replacement level at this point. Denzel Good was actually banged up last year, so we actually didn't get to see him much, but he will be probably reprising the role at right guard, as that's where they initially started him out. So if anything, I really think Parham can take one of those spots. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. And I mean, in all honesty, to be fair, like Good, he's also been a very flexible body throughout his whole career. He's played through both guard spots. He's played right tackle. So he, again, just another flexible piece there. Thayer Mumford's a guy who might not have the greatest upside, but you know exactly what you're getting. A guy who can be a capable starter if you need him to. Brandon Parker, keep that cat in a swing tackle role. That is who he is. I don't want to see Brandon Parker with a high snap total because they've been asking him to start. Alex Leatherwood, I kind of talked about that. This scheme kind of like bodes well for him. So hopefully we see that next jump. So really, well, I mean, it's not fair to say Alex Leatherwood is not going to be a concern this year. He will be a concern. Will he take that step up? Like they literally moved him into the guard position because he was just god awful there at tackle. So hopefully he takes that step up. They do have Brandon Jermaine. I'm going to call him Germani. I'm terrible at mispronouncing names, but a guy that's been a journeyman who, again, another guy that can be an average starter when called upon. So I don't mind that too much. Looking at the other depth, I guess they have there, it's really not too much to talk about. They got Bam, was it Ola Seni out of Utah, but that cat's like 26, 27-year-old rookie, a guy that was very raw but has like great length, size, but I don't see that cat making the team either. But I'm excited for this offense. I think this offense is going to be very good. The question will be, can this defense step up and make some moves? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the defense. As we know, it's being coached by Patrick Graham, who has been a very good defensive coordinator. He was pretty good, I thought, with the Giants. I think he spent 3 seasons? No. It was like 6. But he was a defensive personnel coach for the Patriots from 2009 to 2015 while Josh McDaniels was OC. So what we're going to see with him is very similar to what we've seen with the Patriots the past few seasons. And there's a caveat, and we'll talk about that when it comes to the coverage. But we're going to see a mix of 3-4 and 4-3 fronts to keep the offense on their toes, just showing them different fronts. Blitzing, they're going to be middle of the pack. That's what the Patriots been the last few years. That's what we saw in New York from Patrick Graham. When it comes to the coverage, though, we've seen the Patriots kind of like be very flexible on what they want to call. They kind of like started leaning more on a man-heavy coverage. But I think when it comes to this squad, what the Raiders will do, we're going to see a bit more of a zone-heavy scheme, a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3. And to be fair, Graham, he brought in guys he's been familiar with in the past, in the likes of Chandler Jones, in the likes of Darren Harmon. So I think those guys are obviously Jones being one of the better pass rushers in the NFL, and Harmon just being a very solid starter when you need him to. That's going to be a crazy battle between Jonathan Abram, who in the OTAs was taking first team snaps, and at safety. So I don't know, we'll see, man. Maybe I think Harmon ends up taking more having a more a bigger role than Jonathan Abram. But again, that'll be the battle to see. But don't be surprised if we see some 3 safety sets from this defense. Now, I really think where I think the biggest question mark for this defense when it comes to how will they fit Patrick Graham's scheme comes at linebacker, because you don't have the typical physical style of linebacker that we've tend to have seen from Patrick Graham, as we don't see like a Dante Hightower, we don't see a Jamie Collins, or even a Blake Martinez, who played pretty darn well under Patrick Graham. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe one of these guys steps up. Like I don't know. It just really seems like they're light in the pants at linebacker with guys like Jayon Brown, Devon Diablo, or Diblo, even Darren Butler, who ends up being a UDFA at Arizona State. So that's going to be something to look for. I think something that I find fairly interesting, but I really like Patrick Graham. We saw what he was capable to do, where he was kind of like the first guy to put Patrick Mahomes like in check in that Giants Chiefs game last year. He's a brilliant defensive mind, and I think he's going to be a lot more adaptable compared to what they had last year in Gus Bradley. I'm not the biggest Gus Bradley fan, though, when it comes to what he does defensively. So let's go ahead and actually look at the roster in depth here, because I'm very excited for the secondary. As okay, they like Trayvon Mullen, dude. It looked like he was having a good year. Got banged up last year, returned but didn't look great. I think maybe we see a good year for him. Mullen, Rocky Sin, he comes to the defense where he's very familiar with the coverage. He's been a better zone corner his whole career anyway, so I'm excited for that. Obviously, you know what you got in Nate Hobbs, one of the better slot guys in the NFL right off the bat in his career. But Anthony Averett was very solid last year when called upon. I like him in depth. Amik Robertson, a cat who's a bit undersized but has a lot of fight to him. He's going to be there on the outside. They bring in Darius Phillips, a very flexible player from Cincinnati, who's going to be very familiar with actually the coverage they call. So don't be surprised if you see him hit the field a lot this year. Looking at the other guys they kind of have there, Cravon LeBlanc feels like he's been in the league forever. He's kind of just been a journeyman. We're looking at Sam Webb being I'm trying to remember where he came from specifically. It was like, I want to say it was like a Northwest Missouri or something. I don't know. It was one of those lower competition schools, but he tested out very well. When it comes to safety, it's probably going to be a mixture of Harmon, Moreau, or Merrick. Trayvon Merrick was very good last year as a rookie. Very good second-round pick by the Raiders. It may be Jonathan Abram, but I think we'll see maybe some Tyree Gillespie out of Mizzou, who they drafted a year ago. Even their UDFAs, I'm kind of excited about. Like Isaiah Palomeo at a USC, very like 6'4", great length. Just didn't play that well last year, and just didn't test out well, which caused him to be a UDFA. Even Quinterio Cole, former Alcorn State transfer, went to Louisville. Big body, like he's going to be a guy you're going to see used in the box if he makes the team quite a bit. I won't be surprised if I see him make the team. When it comes to the edge talent here, I mean, Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, scary. Kyler Fackrell's always been a very good rotation piece, very good versatile piece that he can move along that front seven. Cleveland Farrell, maybe we'll see him kind of break out this season. I say breakout. I think he's, you know, the role you want him in. He's a guy that gives you a bit of flexibility. I feel like he was very similar to what they had in Solomon Thomas last year, and that's kind of why he kind of like took over that role. A guy that you kind of want to kick inside on passing downs. Malcolm Kuntz out of Buffalo showed some promise. So like, watch out. Like this team's got some guys. They even bring in Van Valkenburg out of Iowa as UDFA. Be surprised he makes a team, but he's just a very physical type of player there. On the interior, this is probably where I think some of the biggest questions lie, as at the nose tackle spot, Jonathan Hankins he's always been a solid player, but always been a replacement level starter in my opinion. Neil Farrell comes in kind of to be the pass rusher at nose tackle, as he might not have ideal length, but the guy gets into the backfield. He's got a good first step. Andrew Billings is just, again, a good depth piece there at nose tackle. Looking at the rest of the guys, with Nichols just being a very solid player, a very good bargain, as they got him for 2 years, $11 million. Very good bargain. Free agent Matthew Butler, another guy who's this penetrator from maybe the 3 tech, even 5 tech, but another guy who has just got a very quick first step. Tyler Lancaster is another versatile piece who is just is good depth. Kyle Payco, like they got good depth options. Vernon Butler, I'm not wild about. That kind of is what it is with him. A guy that just had high upside, just never reached it. Myron Tagovailoa Amoso out of Notre Dame has a very versatile body type. So they got a lot of names here. Who steps up? You're gonna get a good player. You got a good player in Nichols there. But will we see maybe a guy like Farrell or Butler step up? I think that's gonna be very interesting. You got in the secondary at corner, Mullen, Rocky Sin. You got 2 guys there. It's like one of y'all need to step up, break out, or you're not going to see a second contract. So it's interesting. It's going to be very interesting. I think that definitely the defense is moving in the right direction. They got a very fierce pass rush with Jones and Crosby. That's something to be scared about. Like, I didn't really mention Denzel Perryman. Is he kind of started to become this, like, after the Chargers, like kind of a bit of a journeyman, went to Carolina, came here last year. Like, the dude is just exceptionally solid. He's a very good linebacker, but I wouldn't say offers you much as like a splash type of player. But that's why they bring in Jaron Brown, who is probably low-key one of the like most underappreciated coverage linebackers in the NFL. Obviously, that's what the Raiders thought they were getting with Corey Littleton. So maybe now that they got a bargain deal with Jaron Brown, Jayon Brown. I don't know why I keep wanting to put an R in there, but Jayon Brown. They got a good bargain there. I think we're going to probably see Diablo probably take more snaps than Brown, but I think that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who gets the bulk of the snaps. Even bring in Micah Kaiser, who's kind of been like he played for the Rams and was like, when called upon, not great, but good depth there, excuse me. So that being said, let's go ahead and get to my starters, and I do this not based on your... Oh, I didn't even know that they got Sincere McCormick. Poor guy's already on IR. I wonder why. I didn't even notice that. Sincere, he's got a good body type, low center of gravity. Kind of was a home run threat there for UTSA, but doesn't really have like long speed you expect. He's not going to run away from people. Here, IR. Undisclosed injury. This was back in May. Oh man, that sucks. I don't see anything of what the injury is. If you know what it is, let me know, dude. He was kind of one of the guys. I wouldn't say necessarily my guy, but a guy I did like during the draft process. But when I do these projected starters, it's not based on your base formations, but who's going to see the field the most, because that's going to dictate how you do next year. So let's go ahead, get into the nitty gritty, starting with the offense with the Derek Carr. Duh, we all know this cat is going to be the starter. Josh Jacobs at running back, and then Devontae Adams. Keelan Cole could very well be Demarcus Robinson, but I'm going to lean with Cole here. And then Hunter Renfrow, and then Darren Waller at tight end. When it comes to the offensive line, I got Colton Miller. I'm going to lean on Dylan Parham. I think he might start a variety of different spots on the interior. So I don't know. I kind of hope he edges out, whether it's Good or Simpson. And then I got Andre James, got Denzel Good there at right guard, and then Alex Leatherwood looking at the defense. Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, very scary pass rushing duo there. Got Nichols, Hankinson, and then at linebacker, Perryman and Diablo. At corner, I got Mullen, Rocky Sin, Nate Hobbs there in the slot, and then at safety, Trevon Merrick and Duran Harmon, with we might see a bit of Abram and Gillespie. But let's go ahead, get to my projections as I have them 10-7. Got a lot of teams at 10-7, but hey, they got an extremely hard strength of schedule. They're playing in probably the toughest division currently in football, and I got them going 3-3 in the division. I got them 5-0 against losing teams, but 5-7 against winning teams. Let's go ahead, take a look at the actual schedule for Beta, as I got them going 3-2 going into their bye, with wins over the Titans, Broncos, and Cardinals, and losing to the Chiefs and Chargers. Keep in mind, man, those first 5 games, holy crap, that is a very incredibly tough first 5 games, as 4 of those squads were playoff teams, and Denver is looking to be a playoff team this year. Coming out of the bye, they get Houston, so hopefully should be a win, but I think we're going to see a better Houston team this season. Then they got the Saints, Jags, and Colts. with those games. I got them losing to the Broncos, beating Seattle, losing to the Rams, losing to the Patriots. I got them winning 3 games down the stretch. I got them, more importantly, beating Kansas City. I don't think they're gonna be able to beat Kansas City twice, as we saw last year. That was asking much, but I think they could definitely down the stretch. This team's gonna be dangerous. This team's gonna be vying for the playoffs. I got them at 7-7 down the stretch, and then going 10-7 and just missing the playoffs. This is literally the team I have just missing the playoffs there in the AFC. But I think this is a very quality team. I think this team is. They're gonna be. I think they could be a double-digit win team. I do have them I do have teams like the Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers edging them out. It's going to be an interesting race there in the AFC West. I'm very excited. The Raiders come in much improved. They sit here at 15 for me, and I get not my power rankings, but my draft order. So again, the team that literally just missed the playoffs. Let me know what you think about the Raiders in the comment section below. I love having that nice football discourse. Hopefully the mustache doesn't distract y'all too much, and the beard's coming back. It's coming back. We'll see how it looks by the end of the week. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.